All right, welcome back to Niners Nightly, and with us, the color analyst for the Atlanta Falcons, the great David Archer, is on the line. Dave, how are you?
I'm good, man. Yeah, you can't sling that grade around, man. You got to hang on to that. That's not necessarily me. I appreciate the kind words, but hopefully I'm good. I don't know that I'm great. I appreciate it.
Well, yeah, I've always thought of you as great. Of course, we worked together back with the Gold Miners back in the day, and you had a phenomenal arm. I think our quarterbacks, you were the starter. Kerwin Bell might have been your backup back then. Um, but now you're covering the Falcons, and the Falcons have maybe one of the great throwers of the football, maybe of all time, in Penix. How would you describe Penix's arm?
No, the great might be a good connotation to slap on him. He can make all the throws. There's no question about it. Young guy, still played a lot of college football, certainly when he was at Indiana and in Washington, and had a dynamic last couple of years as a Washington Husky. Got a chance to play late in the season last year for the Falcons. You could see some of that come alive in a couple of throws he made last year, and certainly he's continued that this year. Still learning the game, still learning what he can and can't get away with, but the arm talent is certainly there. I think every portion of the field is available to him.
And who does he have? I mean, London, it seemed like, was his favorite receiver last week. Is that pretty much his favorite receiver every week? I mean, Drake London was a first-round pick, and it seems like he's really coming into his own right now.
Yeah, Drake's been pretty good. Drake had a monster year last year, 100 catches, 1,300 yards, 9 touchdowns. He's since become kind of that guy that if you're the opposing team, better find number 5 because he's going to get the bulk of the looks. He had 16 targets last weekend. So he's a guy that's going to catch a lot of balls. Now, the thing that makes Drake really difficult, he's got a basketball background, so his ability to 50-50 balls that are up high, he can go up and get it at 6'4", 6'5", got a tremendous wingspan, but he can also play that basketball game in the middle. He had a touchdown last weekend in the win over Buffalo, or last Monday night against Buffalo, where he actually kind of screened the defender off and just reached out and plucked the ball out of the sky and then got it over the goal line. So he's got a multiplicity of ways of catching the football. And he can run too. A lot of people feel like, he's long and lanky and he doesn't run that well. He ran a slant and almost got in right in before the half and outran everybody to the goal line. So there's a lot to Drake that I think people are still trying to figure out, but there's no question he's wide receiver 1 for the Falcons.
Dave, my good buddy is Ray McLeod. He was a great Niner. How's Ray doing? How do they utilize him?
Well, Ray's one of those speed guys, as you know, got return ability in his background. So what they do is they use Ray in a lot of the jet sweeps. He's a guy that's in motion a great deal. You'd like to get him the football on the move. Penix is hooked up with Ray on a couple of big plays down the field as well. You get him in the slot matched up maybe against that third corner or fourth corner. He's going to take that guy to task because he's going to run those deep corner routes, those deep in cuts. And because of his speed, he can run away. So, yeah, Ray's an integral part of this thing. Haven't gotten him the ball as much this year. He had a career high last year, almost 700 yards receiving last year. Hope to get Ray going here in this second third of the season.
What's going on with Cousins? I mean, are they going to keep Cousins? Does Cousins, want to be there? I mean, it just seems like I love Penix, and I think Penix is the future. But man, I mean, the way the Falcons look right now, it kind of makes me intrigued that they would look like if Cousins ever got back in there. He's got that, he's such a great processor. How's Kirk Cousins handling being a backup?
Well, as you know from last year, I mean, he had a monster start to the season. Had 2 huge games against Tampa. Threw for over 500 yards against Tampa on a Thursday night, guided Atlanta to an overtime win against the Bucs in division. We were 6-3 at one point, and then Kirk got a little banged up in the New Orleans game, and whether somebody didn't read it right or whether he didn't tell anybody he was hurt, he began to get into a little bit of funk, and that's what led to Penix getting into the games late in the season. We missed the playoffs, but there's no question Kirk's had a big-time career. You're right. His ability to process and get the ball out and to the right guy is at the upper level when you start talking about the quarterbacks that are available. As far as whether Atlanta's going to do with him, they had talked about, hey, we know we got to pay him. His stuff's guaranteed. So unless somebody wants to pick up that contract, which is huge, upwards of over $30 million, unless they're going to pick up that tab and then give up something from a draft standpoint, Atlanta figured, hey, we've already allocated the money for the quarterback room. Just so happens we're paying more to the backup guy than we are the starter. But, hey, that money was already allocated. We knew we were going to have to pay it. We just anticipated Kirk being the starter this year. You've got the best backup quarterback in the National Football League. He's worked well with Penix. He and Penix have an outstanding relationship with one another. In fact, they even ride to games together, I think, down to the airport before we take off. So, I think he's more of a positive than a negative. In the heart of hearts, Kirk would like to be somebody playing. He wants to be somewhere playing. There's no question about that. But he's not been a detriment. He's been a really good teammate. And right now, unless somebody's willing to give some stuff up for him, Atlanta's just going to hang on to him and keep the best backup quarterback in the National Football League.
Yeah, I've had him on the show a few times. He's a great dude. He's got mental maturity, so he can handle this situation. But I would love to see him play, and I understand why he wants to play. How about Pitts? I mean, Kyle Pitts coming out of college was supposed to be like awesome, and he's had some injuries. He was a little bit derailed, but it seems like he's getting his career back going again. How's Pitts look this year, Dave?
Yeah, it's a good call. He had a monster rookie year, went to the Pro Bowl, over 1,000 yards receiving. Had a really good year his rookie year. Matt Ryan was his quarterback, and then we've had a revolving door at quarterback. That's been a detriment to him a little bit in the last couple of seasons. And you mentioned the injury, injured his knee in week 8 of his second season. Really struggled to get back the next year. Wasn't really the same guy. And then we started to see some of it get back to where it was supposed to be last year. And then this year, he just got a different attitude. He and Michael Penix spent a lot of time together in the offseason. They both knew that Mike was going to be the starter for this year, and, playing golf, just hanging out together, throwing the football. And there's a chemistry there. Now, we haven't gotten him the ball as much as we need to. And that's something that Michael's going to have to work on, the distribution of the football. He's getting the ball to Drake, we talked about, and he's getting the ball to Bijan Robinson. But Kyle's a guy that is available, and I think that that's something they would like to do. And I think Kyle is in that mode where he wants to contribute. Plus, it's a contract year. He knows that he's got to show out if he wants to get paid. So there's a lot of reasons for Kyle to be big time this year.
One of the things I learned when we were together in Sacramento is how to watch film, with pro coaches. And so I did get a chance to watch the All-22 quite a bit this week on Penix. And Dave, I'll tell you what I see. I see a guy who looks amazing, but he also, his ball's a little flat sometimes. And when he's throwing to the right side of the field, I don't know. The accuracy on going to the right side of the field doesn't seem the same to me as when he's throwing it in the middle of the field or to the left. What do you see? I mean, you're a smart football guy. You've been watching it for a long time. What do you see with Penix? Are there any trends or tendencies that you've noticed?
No, it's an interesting analogy. I think that there's some accuracy to it, certainly. For a quarterback, naturally, your ability to throw the ball to your open side is going to naturally happen. You naturally get your leg out of the way that's in front there, and you naturally open your hips up. You have to work at getting the ball to your closed side, or the side where you got to get your leg out of the way. So for Penix, that would be throwing to his right, and trying to get that right leg out of the way so he can clear his hips and throw the ball with velocity, throw the ball with some accuracy. Has certainly waned a little bit. I think you're right on that. I think some of it has to do with his footwork, and that's where most quarterbacks that have abilities to get to their second, third, fourth read, if you have time, that's going to take some footwork, and I think that's something Michael's still working on. I think that you see a lot of these guys that are shotgun guys coming out of college or pistol guys coming out of college have a tendency to have dead feet to a certain extent, and they've got to really work on their footwork. Back when I was playing, a lot of the stuff you did on first and second down, certainly, you were coming out from underneath center, so you had to get your feet working to get your depth, and then you had to get through your reads, so you're constantly rotating your feet, keeping your feet alive. I think some of these guys some of their technique, some of their fundamentals from a footwork standpoint aren't the greatest. And I would say Michael probably falls into that category.
We're talking to David Archer, who's the Falcons color analyst. He'll be on the call with Wes Durham this weekend on the Falcons radio network. Dave, Terry Fontenot has got some great momentum going here. He had a great career coming up behind Mickey Loomis in New Orleans. Talk a little bit about Fontenot, because it seems like Fontenot and Raheem Morris right now have a good vibe going. They've got a good momentum coming out of this draft cycle.
Yeah, I think what Terry learned in New Orleans was certainly advantageous for him to advance his career. They've taken a lot of people, a lot of good draft picks, a lot of good free agent signings in that New Orleans area, especially when Breeze was the quarterback there and Sean Payton was there. There was a lot to learn, and I think he really absorbed a lot of stuff. Brought it over here to Atlanta. He's had some really good drafts. Obviously, we've got a young core of players that we're leaning on. The Bijan Robinson, Drake London, Penix, as you mentioned, Kyle Pitts. We now are starting to feel a little bit about this defensive group that he's got. He drafted 2 kids in the secondary. They're starting. Billy Bowman and Xavier Watts are starting in the secondary. And then, of course, Jalen Walker and James Pierce Jr. are rookies that we were able to draft, got an extra number 1 pick and drafted those 2 guys, and they've paid dividends with this defense that Jeff Ulbrich is kind of fashioned into a pretty good one here early in the year. And a lot of that has to do with some of the picks. And Brandon Dorlus from last year didn't play much. He's playing on the defensive line. Ruka Rororo out of Clemson was a second-round pick a year ago. So a lot of these young players that Terry's put on the team are starting to come to fruition here. And I think that it says a lot about his research. It says a lot about the team that he's got around him. But also one of the things that he does is he listens really well. And I think he's in lockstep with Raheem Morris and their coordinators, Zach Robinson, the offensive coordinator, Jeff Ulbrich, the defensive coordinator, as to what they're looking for that they can fill these spots for in the philosophies they have offensively and defensively. So as much as he's a good talent evaluator, I think he's a great listener too. And I think that his team around him have done a nice job.
Yeah, that's good stuff. Jeff Ulbrich is a friend, and he was a great Niner. I love Ulbrich, and I think he might be one of the best young defensive coaches in the game. Talk to us about their defense, because they play a ton of man. I was looking at the numbers, Dave. Highest percentage of cover 1 in the NFL is the Atlanta Falcons. They play a ton of man, and they also bring a ton of pressure. They've got the highest blitz percentage in the league. They especially bring it on third down. Talk to us about what you're seeing. What is the strength of Ulbrich's defense? Because there's a lot of pressure and a lot of man-to-man coverage.
Yeah, I think that you just said it. It's their aggressiveness. They want to play aggressive. They want to get after you. They know you're going to make some plays. They know it's an offensive game in the National Football League now, centered around taking care of the quarterback and the receivers. So he understands, and his team understands they're going to make plays, but they're also going to make their share of plays because they're going to have their teeth out and they're going to come after you. They're going to force you to make plays. They're going to force you to make quick decisions. And Brick has brought that down from what he learned from Robert Saleh, the defensive coordinator for the Niners now. I mean, he worked for Saleh up in New York. They had one of the best defenses in the league for a number of years. I think they were ranked 3 twice and 4 once over the last 3 seasons in total defense. And that's the influence of Robert Saleh. He talks openly about, does Jeff Ulbrich, about what he learned from Coach Saleh in coordinating defense and what to look for and how to get ready each and every week, what the game plan is supposed to look like, but also play to your who you are. And what he wants to do is they pick gaps, they get upfield. They're not a gap control defense. They're obviously guys are assigned gaps, but they're going to attack their gaps. They're not going to sit and wait. They're not two gapping and trying to push the thing along the line of scrimmage. They're trying to make plays in the backfield. And some of that is, a lot of that is great, but you're going to get gashed a few times too. We got hurt a little bit in the run game, which is what I'm expecting this weekend out of the Niners, is we got hurt a little bit in the run game in the third quarter by Buffalo. They started coming downhill with the run game, and I would assume that Kyle's looking at that tape saying, hey, we can get McCaffrey going downhill in the run game, so we're probably going to get a steady diet of that. But But getting back to Brick, he's a good guy. He played the game. I think there's a value to having been in the trenches a little bit. He was a good linebacker, obviously, out there in San Francisco, and learned the game that way. And he talked about how he matured over the last 3 or 4 years under Coach Saleh up in New York. You know, he had a chance to be a defensive coordinator down here under Dan Quinn, did a good job, was the coordinator for a season down here as well, but then had to go someplace else, much like Raheem Morris did, who was on that same staff. And those guys, kind of maybe found themselves a little bit in another place, and they brought it here to Atlanta.
Two last ones for you, Dave. Do you have a favorite rookie? I mean, I think the Niners have a good rookie class, but I'm looking at this Atlanta class. Pierce is an edge force. Jalen Walker is one of the greatest athletes coming out of the draft last year. And then you mentioned Watson Bowman. I thought they picked off maybe the two best safeties in the entire draft, and they got them in the same year, one in the third round, one in the fourth round. Do you have a favorite of the rookies that you've seen?
Yeah, it's kind of tough. They've all contributed. I think all of them have some really cool leadership qualities to them too. You know, the two guys in the back end, Watson, Bowman, had 24 career interceptions between them in college football, and I think they ran 7 of them back for touchdowns. They just made plays in the back end, and then the two guys up front, Jalen Walker and James Pierce Jr., obviously wreaking havoc. I guess that the guy that really sticks out to me that looks like could develop into maybe, the green dot guy that's making calls on defense or one of those real leaders, Jalen Walker. It's hard to go against what Kirby Smart does at Georgia to get guys ready to play in the National Football League. They come in so prepared. They practice so hard in Athens to get ready for games at Georgia that when it's almost like when they come to the National Football League, it's a breath of fresh air because they're not having to work quite as hard, and they got to gear it back up. They got to get back to that Georgia mode. So I think that the way he spoke, the way he understood what his role was going to be, and then almost to take on a leadership role as a young guy, to know that his work ethic translates to other players, was really impressive to me. Not to say the other guys don't have some of that, but Jalen Walker stuck out like that.
Man, Arch, we appreciate your time, man. Hey, it's awesome to catch up with you. And one last one on the way out the door. You were there when Shanahan was there as the offensive coordinator. What do you think of Shanahan? Do you have a relationship with him? What do you think of him as a football coach? You've been around some great offensive coaches and some great offensive masterminds. Where do you rank Kyle Shanahan in around the coaches you've been around?
Yeah, Kyle would be right at the top of the scale. I mean, he'd be in one of the 2 or 3 best I've been around. I think that, I don't think I'm saying anything that people don't already know. Obviously, he comes from some pretty good lineage. His pop was a pretty good coach in his own right, and a lot of stuff we're seeing around the National Football League, you can trace back to his dad. I mean, you pick a team, whether it's Minnesota, or whether it's Washington, or whether it's the Rams or the 49ers, or here in Atlanta. I mean, they all are running some semblance of what Mike ran when he was coaching. So, but Kyle has a lot of those same skill sets. And I think that the thing I admire about Kyle more than anything else is his ability to probably adjust in game. I think that when he sees stuff that's not working, then he finds something else to get you with. And I think that's why San Francisco's been so successful. I know last year was a tough one because of the injuries and all those kind of things they had to go through, lost a lot of manpower that were making plays. But, I mean, they've been right in the mix the last 4 or 5 years, and it's because of the way Kyle designs his offense. And you remember Mike used to be able to plug anybody in to play running back. It was unbelievable. It seemed like whoever he plugged in at running back was an unbelievable player. And Kyle's been doing some of that with the quarterback position as well. So he's just a very impressive guy, leaves no stone unturned. We'll have our work cut out for us on Sunday night.
Man, Dave, I just checked your Wikipedia, man. What a lengthy career, huh? From high school football in Idaho to getting, the Falcons in the mid 80s, finishing up in the late 90s in the Canadian League with Edmonton. In the midst there, we got together with the Gold Miners in the early 90s, but San Antonio, Ottawa, you were with the Eagles, the Sacramento Surge in the World League with Kay, the Chargers, the Skins way back, the Dolphins. Man, do you ever think back? I mean, how's the body feel these days? I would imagine you probably got a few bumps and bruises.
That's correct. As you and I are talking right here, I got an ice pack on my back, so that might tell you a little bit about how the body kind of transitioned through those 13 or 14 years of playing pro ball, and of course 4 years of playing college football too. So most of us feel that way, but the one thing I will say is I got a chance to meet some incredible people like yourself that taught me a lot about the game. Hopefully, I've been able to share some of that with other people, and I certainly got a chance to see all of North America. That's for damn sure. I was all over the place, so I got a chance to get a good geography lesson.
Exactly. Yeah, you're like Rand McNally now. I mean, you could start your own guide. Arch, great to talk to you, man. Have a great call on Sunday. Good luck to the Falcons, man. I mean, I think the Falcons are a sleeper Super Bowl team this year. I know it seems crazy. Penix is going to have to develop. Some good breaks are going to have to happen, but I see good things coming for this bunch, and I wish you nothing but success and good health to you and your family going forward. Thanks again for jumping on KMBR.
Great speaking with you, man. Really appreciate the words. Thanks for the kindness, and I hope you're right. I hope we're destined for good stuff. But to you and your family, take care, bud.